When we say to people, stay in your lane, that's what we mean. Literally, keep your head and your ass in the same place, stay in your lane, and let's hope that your level of effort has exerted greater control and influence on the result.
Everyone is just average, even if they're doing great things on media. They're just another person at the end of the day.
Being a high performer doesn't mean you're better than others as a human being.
Don't compare us to how the men are going now. Compare us to how we've improved over 10 years.
When I first started, I literally had someone sit in front of me, and this person's in the media now, who said, as a male, he goes, "You'll never work in footy because you're a girl."
Welcome to 4TG. Jacqui Louder, thank you so much for joining the 4TG podcast.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
I'm absolutely pumped for this one, quite selfishly actually, because I've been following you for a long time now on all the podcasts that you've been on. You're a bit of a podcast guru at this stage,
Really?
talking about the high performance mindset, which I also geek out on quite a bit. But for the listeners who don't know you, I'll give them a bit of a brief overview. So you are one of Australia's leading sport and performance psychologists with a very long career spanning elite teams, including Collingwood and Storm, to success, may I add, individual athletes, and some high performance pressure environments in sport. And often, if you looked close enough on the Collingwood bench, you would see yourself there nestled up, being a sounding board and an emotional support for the players, and I'm sure the coaches as well. So you've had quite a large career, but what I'm most impressed with you is that you have a really good ability just to tell things how it is. You speak in such simple English, and you can just see how committed you are to not only helping the athletes unlock their best performance on the field, but really become their best selves. And they always speak so highly about you. So I'm so excited and grateful that you've made the time to come on today.
Oh, no problem. Thanks. I appreciate the intro.
Well, before we get into the serious stuff, because as I mentioned, you've been on a lot of podcasts. We want to make this a little bit different.
Yeah, great.
Now, you've been on the sidelines for a long time. What is the funniest or the most unexpected thing you've ever seen from being right next to all the action?
Oh, that's a really good question, because there's probably been heaps, and I probably can't even, I don't know, leave that one with me. We might have to come back to that
We
one.
can circle back.
Actually, you probably should have sent me that one, because I'm really stumped now, because there's been so many different things. Like, it might just be, you're in a certain situation and someone farts, and it just like breaks the tension. And those things happen all the time. Or, someone just says something funny or whatever. I'm trying to think of a really good example. I just can't at the moment, because there's probably been so many.
Yeah, that's right. I've stumped you there. What
Yeah.
about then? Everyone knows you in the professional sense. So,
Yep.
what is one thing that might surprise people about you?
Okay. I think most people would be really surprised that as a hobby, I love cake decorating.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I needed a complete break, something not sport related. So a number of years ago, I had a mate, and he always wanted to do singing lessons. And so he and I decided that we would follow something that wasn't sport. So he went and did his singing lessons, and I went and did cake decorating classes.
I love it. You'd be very
I got
popular at a
further in the
birthday
cake
party.
decorating than he did with the singing, though. Yeah.
So, you still decorate frequently?
Not as frequently as I would like, but I'm well set up, and I just enjoy the creativity of it. I don't really eat the cakes, but I love putting something together that represents who the person is. Like, it might be one of my nephews or a family member, and making something that's them.
I think we can get a good partnership here. How about you decorate the cakes and I'll eat them?
That works well. Works well. Mm.
Brilliant. So we're a bit of a gun netballer back in the day. So I want to take it right back to where it all began for you and know sort of what sport meant to you growing up and what were the life lessons you learned from sport.
Yeah, I think, like, sport for me growing up was everything. Like, that is, if we were at school, I've got 3 siblings, and mum and dad were taking us everywhere. So it meant so much, I think, to be part of something. I loved the achievement side and the putting the challenge in front of me. I loved the social side. Like, I'm still in touch with people I did state athletics with, and people I've known since I was 5 years old. And funnily enough, so many of them like the group that I grew up with have ended up in elite sport. Like I look at our state athletics teams, and it had Brad and Chris Scott, Elisa Camplin, Adam Kingsley, myself in
Wow.
sport, my sister in sport, Jason Cripps. Like there were so many of us that have ended up in elite sport and in each other's circles.
Yeah, it's amazing the community that you meet and how far along your networks go, even within life, within the professional sense, right? Like, yeah, even myself, I've, got people and friends all over the world now, and it's just through sport.
Yeah. I mean, it's an amazing thing because you meet people who are very like-minded, but I think when I was growing up, it was a whole family activity, and I think that's also what I liked. Like, every Saturday morning, the whole family would go. Mum and dad were involved with the athletics club, um, and marshalling events and all that sort of stuff. That's where we'd spend every Saturday morning. And then we'd go when we were younger, watch dad play footy. And then as we got older, we'd leave athletics, go to netball, go to my brother's footy, go play tennis, go to swimming. So it was just, I sit here now going, what do people who don't do sport, what do they do on the weekends? Actually
I
do nothing.
know. And I don't know how they make friends either. I often think that.
Mm, yeah, like and that's where I think I look at all of my closest group of friends, and they're all through sports connections.
Mm.
Like 1 or 2 from school, but all through sport, and a lot of it sport when I was a junior.
Yeah. Yep. So noting that and the stat that girls are dropping out of sport at twice the rate of boys by 14
Mm.
or 15, what does that mean to you?
In terms of their dropping out,
Yeah. Yep.
I feel like, we know that what sport does to help you study. We know how important it is for friendships, for that sense of self, that sense of achievement. It gives you a real pride in something, but I also think it's important to teach you, you don't always get your way. Um, there are a lot of it teaches you how to manage emotions, a lot of unpredictables. It teaches you to manage a lot of unfairness. Like you go to be selected in a team, and when you're under 14 and you're going for a position in the state netball team, you're devastated when you don't make it. Those experiences help create a bit of hardiness and really set you up. Um, and then for me, it's helped because of the field I've gone into. It's really allowed me to then connect with my athletes and go, I know that experience. But when I get young kids come through, you can put it in context and go, I know this feels like everything right now. But honestly, as a junior, I want you to have all these experiences because it will make you a more hardy senior athlete,
Mm.
and it will give you life skills. Like, you make a commitment to something, you stick to it. If
Mm.
I have no doubt, and I can even remember there would have been times when we joined netball teams, athletics, as kids, and you go, "I don't wanna do this anymore." And mum and dad would be like, "No, you committed. If you don't wanna do it at the end of the season, no problem, but we've committed for the season. You've got teammates, you've got this and that, like, we're doing it." So I think all those life things is it teaches you how to just work through and have to do things when you don't want to.
Mm.
And I think
Ab
that's such a good skill.
Absolutely. We always talk about it's definitely more than what happens on the field. It's a vehicle for life, and you just in terms of leadership, you just learn so much and so much about who you are and being confident in your own body and what it can do. And yeah, it's a grave shame to see so many girls dropping out at that
Yeah,
rate.
I know. And I think there's so many reasons that you can create for yourself as to why to drop out, but I think there's just as many reasons to stay in it. And sometimes you gotta have that conversation, not just allow kids to just do it straight up, like, put another angle to it so that, they go away and they think about it. I just feel like at the moment, sometimes it's a little bit too easy to make that call, and if all your friends are doing it, you also feel like you wanna do it. For me, I've probably been lucky that, um, I don't really get FOMO. I don't care about missing out on stuff because I'll do what I wanna do if it's gonna be the right thing for me. So, if all my friends had dropped out, I still would have kept going because that's what I wanna do. But I definitely can see that other side. And then for girls as they get older, you start developing and you go through puberty, and there's lots of really, personal reasons why it's uncomfortable. But I still think that's something to work through because the benefits far outweigh that.
Mm, totally. So from your own sporting journey, how did you decide to get into sports psychology?
Yeah, so that's an interesting one because I always knew I wanted to do psychology. And then I thought, if I could do it with athletes, I didn't really know that that was actually an option. And if people have listened to some of my other podcasts, they'll know the story, which is at athletics, my sister used to do hurdles every week, and every week she'd fall at the fourth hurdle. And I literally remember sitting on the hill at Doncaster Athletics track with my dad and said to him, "That's in her head. I want to help athletes with that stuff."
Wow.
And then in year 9, I found a brochure stand out the front of the library that had sports psychology and human movement sports science as an option at Ballarat University, which is now Federation. And from that moment on, I just made a beeline for it, and I've never wavered. Like, that's me as a person. Once I know what I wanna do and I've got a real passion for something, I just do it.
And you've been in it now for, what is it, over 23 years?
25 years, yeah.
25.
Yeah.
So obviously the awareness around mindset, high performance mindset, mental health has changed substantially in those 25 years.
Yeah, yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that now, because it's all sort of buzzwords at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, look, it really is, and I think basically it's the way you think inside your head, and I think when the easiest way to explain it to people is where you just go, high performing people, basically, they focus on what their priority is. They're the 1% people. They don't go with, big complex things. They go, "This is what I wanna do, and I don't waver from that." And then you wanna be the best at that, and I'm prepared to do whatever it takes to be that 1%. I always say to people, you see that pyramid of success, and there's a reason why it's really pointy at the top. There's not enough room for everyone.
Mm.
So as you go up, it gets smaller and smaller, and that's the attrition level in pretty much everything, in exercise, in commitment to study, in being the best. Um, and I think owning it, like you're okay to say, I want to be the best. That's not arrogance. That's just saying that's my drive, and I'm prepared to do that. And you kind of double down on those things, and it's like a bit of a fortress. You stick to it, and um, and you're prepared to go through all of the bumps and just keep coming back and going, "Well, how do I do this? How do I do this?" Like, it's consistency again and again and again, and then achievement becomes exactly the same thing. So, it's not dominating it for a day, it's not doing it for 1 year, it's the long haul, like, you always hear people say, "I've, um, I've worked in this for 25 years to become an overnight success." Like, you just haven't. You've been doing it for so long, and I've definitely had highs and lows, and it's not always been fair, but it's just I know what I can do, and I never think I know enough, so I'm just a voracious learner, and I think that's been my biggest asset as well as networking.
Mm. You've worked with some of the most successful teams, being Collingwood, being Storm. What is one of your most proudest moments working in sports psychology?
I think it's th there's something all the time that I love, and I love seeing someone who didn't think they could do something. You've encouraged them, you've given them tools, they've put their head down and they've achieved it. As an overall, I love that, and I've got that from so many different experiences as well. But to be honest, I think it was when I started, and don't get me wrong, I've loved all of those highs, that have probably been a lot more public, but I think one of the ones that I've loved the most was the first team I ever worked with was an under 16 state softball team, and I had a coach who gave me an opportunity, so it was all, like, because I was developing, it was all volunteer, but 2 of those coaches, I'm still super close with, like, they're a couple of my best friends. The head coach unfortunately passed away, but, like, he just left such a mark on me, but we had a team of under 16 girls who we became great friends, we had so much fun, we were not the most physically strong team. We had teams from other states that we were up against that physically just overpowered us, but we had such a great connection and a fun time, and we won a national championship.
Mm.
And I
Wow.
still look back on that and went, "That's what it should be." It should be
Yeah.
great relationships, great experiences, and a whole heap of fun. So I
Yeah.
see I'm proud of that because I could learn from it, I had that experience, and I've never moved away from how much I enjoyed that.
Mm. How have you found the buy-in? especially within the men's space, because, stereotypically, if you talked about mental health and mindset a while ago, it would be that you're soft, or they would probably hide that they're going to see the sports psych. Is it now becoming far more mainstream and just like going to, I don't know, see the physio?
I think yes, I've always had clinical practice and I've always been busy. So more and more people are understanding it. There is still um, a little bit of an ego thing involved from an athlete perspective, like, do I need the extra help? But there has been a big shift in the whole time. Like now, we're in every AFL team. We're not in every NRL team. We're in lots of other sports, and it's still got a way to go. Um, and I still think there is some people within it that think it's when you have a problem, but we are moving far more towards your physical skills and your mental skills, and you have to have both.
Mm.
So the opportunities are far greater than what they were. But I think it's still got some developing to go. And, there's lots of people coming into this space that haven't got the qualifications, but can see the sexiness of it.
Mm.
Which that frustrates me a little bit because they don't necessarily have the science and the real understanding, and they're doing an injustice to the athletes, I think, when they're doing that. But, it's developed for sure, and when I went in, so many people said, "You'll never get a job, like, you'll never work in AFL or whatever," and I've had no problem doing that, but I've had to be really patient
Mm.
with it, and I think that's the key to anything is you don't you come out of uni, you're not gonna be at the top, and nor do you want to be because you haven't developed your skills. Like, enjoy the journey, be prepared for the journey, and understand it's gonna have its highs and lows. Um, but if you believe in yourself and you know what you're doing and you're prepared to keep working at it, the opportunities will come, but the timing is not always your choice.
Mm. Yeah. And look, you probably are, the biggest secret keeper in Melbourne with all the high performers that you have under you. So I often wonder this just about psychologists in general, but how do you decompress after hearing a lot of problems and secrets and things like that? Do you yourself look to someone to speak to, or?
Yeah, I think there's two sides of that. There's an art to it over time. You just get better at that's that person's information, and then you move on and what's the next person that you're helping and whatever it is. So I don't see it as secret keeping. It's just a normal part of the job, and you get a real skill around that. But I think, advice I would give to any psych coming out is you have to have a professional network of peers that you can run things by, that you can share your frustrations with, that you can um, like speak to for ideas and all that sort of stuff. And they're the ones also that often provide you opportunity. Hey, I heard about a job going here. I reckon you'd be great for that. Because different people develop a different niche or specialty areas. And then it's also knowing what you do for self care. Like I said, it might be the cake decorating. That's just time out, got nothing to do with sport. It's, I get up and I'm walking at 5 o'clock every morning for a good hour, hour and a half, like just to start my day off. Well, I read, so I don't watch a lot of TV. So it's those little disciplines as well that just help me do what's right for me. And I think that's important.
Mm. So let's get into the crux of high performance mindset, what it is, what it looks like. There was a stat from the Sports Psychologist Journal in 2024 that said only 10% of elite performance is physical and the rest is mental. From your experience, do you believe that stat?
I think it's hard to put numbers around it. What I would say more than to put a number around it is there's only so far that we can measure more and more physical stuff. But if I look at any high level competition in any sport, your highest performers, they're all very well physically trained. Like, we have so much sports science information now that they're just not turning up to the elite levels, not in great physical condition, unless they've been unwell or a bit lazy, but then you don't really make it. So why are some never ever, apart from physical ability, like their actual skill level, why are they getting inconsistent performances and never making it, or they're one hit wonders and then they drop out? Like, that's got to be psychological. So I think the psychological side deserves a lot more credit than what people are giving it in terms of time committed to it.
Mhm.
I think it's
And
more that for me.
and is it something that you're just born with, or is it something that can be exercised and taught?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think a personality, like if we do personality profiling and high performers in sport, in business, in music, in, any area, there's a lot of commonalities. And it's what they're prepared to do, the discipline, what they're prepared to sacrifice, um, them backing themselves in, doing what everyone else isn't doing, putting more time into it, being prepared to ride the waves. So I think there is an element of personality, but I also think there is skills if you've got the right people around you to teach you the lessons. So like we said before, if a teenage girl comes to you and says, "I want to drop out," don't just accept that answer. Work them through it and talk them through it. And if you've got the right people around you to have that conversation, say, "Well, tell me the reasons why," and go a little bit in depth and make time for that conversation. What do you think you're gonna miss if you drop out? Like, what might be the things that, you're not gonna have anymore? Could that have consequences in the future? Like, is this something you're doing temporarily? You're gonna do it for a long time? What started this thinking? Like, work it through. So I think the people around you help develop the skill and the abilities to become elite. And they always say, the 5 people around you is who you become. So if you are in an environment where no one believes in you, no, everyone's going, "You can't do that. You're not as good as this person," whatever it is, it's pretty hard to fight that. But I think if you've got people that go, "You know what? I think you can do it. It's gonna be hard work. I think you've gotta, be able to put yourself through this and do this and that," then I think anyone has the ability, but it's your setup, I think, that makes a big difference.
Yeah. So, what would you define a high performance mindset to be? And if you had to sort of put three characteristics or attributes with it, what do you think they would be?
I think one of them would definitely be like a laser focus, um,
Mhm.
and the discipline that goes with this. I think it's, persistence and hardiness, however you wanna do that, and I think it is just complete drive, uh, that you wanna do it and you're prepared to sacrifice. So, I think it's those sort of things, and honestly believe it's the 1% that are prepared to do that over and over and over and over again, and ride the waves.
That's right. Behind closed doors on terrible days when you don't want to show up.
Yep.
And it's often the elite athletes, like you hear their stories and they've been through absolutely everything. They've had injuries, they've had setbacks, but the
Yep.
difference between them and someone else is that they kept showing up and they didn't take no for an answer.
Yeah, and I think they have a great ability to listen, and I think the other thing that is very underestimated is a real willingness to self-evaluate
Mm.
and be really honest with that self-evaluation, to sit there and go, "I could have done a better job." If someone doesn't reach their goal, to be prepared to sit down and go, "Did you do everything? Like, do you think there was anything else that we could have done? Were we lazy on some things, or do you reckon we stayed committed the whole time?" And that's not comfortable sometimes. So, being prepared to have uncomfortable conversations with yourself and self-evaluate to go, "I contributed to this. I wanted it and I reckon I did 95%. You know what? Next year I need to do the extra." And you've been shown up when you haven't. And the person next to you maybe has done the work. And this is where I think the difference is a high performer is doing that over a long period of time.
Mhm.
I think someone who achieves um, a one-off high performance moment, but hasn't been able to sustain it, that's not a high performer for me.
Mhm.
I think that's just a one-off thing.
Yeah. So if the stat is relatively true that, 10% is physical and the 90% is mental, obviously we need to be training it far more because it's all well and good to be extremely fit out in the field, but as soon as something goes wrong, you throw in the towel and mentally you're not there.
Yeah,
So what are some things that athletes can do today to help exercise this high performance mindset?
yeah. Um, I think there's a couple of skills that, they can definitely build into. I think you've got to be able to set goals. And I'm not just saying, "Tell me what you wanna do." Goal setting is a real planning process. Sitting down and going, "Okay, here's my end point. Um, how do I get to the one below that? How do I get to the one below that? How do I get to the one below that?" Like, if this is where I wanna be in 5 years' time, what do I need to accomplish along the way? What do I need to put into my day to day to be able to get that? So I think goal setting done properly is a long process. It's really good planning and it's making time to do it. I think emotional regulation and being able to label your emotions, understand what caused them, then manage them when they come in. I think that's really important. Um, I think a lot of like just general mental rehearsal and all those sort of things. And I think the other one that is a really big player is how you talk to yourself and what's going on in your head and recognizing, you can actually control some of that. But if you've chosen not to, and it's interesting because even in elite sport now, I still think there is 50% easy of players, possibly more, players and athletes and then different sports that don't actually fully dedicate themselves to this side of things.
Mm.
I still think there's a big gap in it. And I see athletes that will come in and they've been in their sport for 10 or 15 years. And they've never tapped into this. And I'm like, what a waste.
Yeah,
Like,
the
great,
potential,
great that
hey?
you're here now, but what a waste. And you see comments on socials and that, like, surely everybody's using a sports psych and that. Well, surely not.
Yeah.
I wish.
Not
Uh,
yet anyway.
yeah, because the more you see people coming in, it's great for us who have been in this industry a long time, seeing more people come into it. Um, and that's where we just say to them, pace yourself. You don't want your dream job in your first 5 years. To be honest, I'm not even sure I wanted my dream job in the first 10 years.
Mm.
'Cause you've got to cut your teeth and you've got to find out where your gaps are in your knowledge. And I think that's the same, for athletes when you're teaching them these skills. We talk about mindfulness. Mindfulness isn't just meditation. Mindfulness is keeping your head and your ass in the same place. It's being aware of things when you're in certain moments. That's a real skill to be able to do as well. So I think there's a lot of core skills they need to have.
Mm. And even from a young age, like if you're in a program that's not well resourced, very rarely are you ever going to have a sports psych. Like, you'll have a trainer or a physio maybe. So for the younger crowd who don't have these resources yet, I want to run through 3 scenarios which happen, I'm sure, every single game. I've been through them and just see what you would say to that person if they were coming to see you.
Sure.
So, scenario number one, you're nervous before a game, you don't feel prepared, you're feeling a little bit sick, you're in your head. What should you do?
Okay. So first thing I'd be saying to someone is, what are you actually worried about?
Mhm.
Most of the time, the answer is going to be what?
Fear of failure.
Fear of failure. Right. So what's a failure? Get them to kind of articulate that. And then they're like, well, what if we don't win? Okay, well, let's answer that question. What if you don't win? Have you lost before? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, well, it couldn't have been too disastrous because you're still doing this. Right. So most of the time they recognize and you help them recognize the thing you fear, you've already experienced, you've already worked through, and you've come back for more. So it actually isn't that bad. Don't attach who you are as a person to what you achieve as a result. Like, you got to be able to separate those. And then the second part of it would be finding out exactly what they're saying to themselves. So a lot of athletes will go, I can't do this. It's what ifs, it's whatever. And I'm like, okay, imagine this. If I was in your support crew and I was saying all of that to you, you can't do this. I don't think you're very good. Your forehand's crap, whatever it is. Do you want me in your support crew? And they're like, of course not. I'm like, so the difference is you can get rid of me. I'm an external source to you. So we either learn how to control this and learn how to speak to you because you're making me follow a rule that you're not. You're the one with yourself 24/7. So we're going to learn how to control your dialogue. Um, and I think when you start to put it practically like that for them, they're like, okay, this is actually not that bad. Come off the field or the court or the pool or whatever. And every time if you're saying to yourself, that is the best I could have done today,
Mm.
then that's not a failure. That's a loss, but it's not a failure. Failure to me is effort based. And
Heard.
that's the thing. So success and failure are based on a process, which is effort. You get to control the effort. So if you've done everything you can, I'm fine with that. We might be disappointed with the result, but we're going to keep going back. Like, you don't get to control wins and losses because someone else is trying to influence the result on the other side.
I love that. Yeah, that's golden. So then, scenario number two,
Yep.
you're already in the game. You feel like you can't get into it. And let's say that you have missed a set shot right in front. What can you do then and there to help you overcome what's just happened and get back into the game?
Yep. So easiest way to get out of your own head is connect with a teammate straight away. Like, have a conversation, because when you're having a conversation, you're taking in what they say. So you've stopped thinking about everything in your own head because you're engaged with someone else. So that's the easiest thing to do. Um, then again, and this is the ability to self-evaluate, going, well, what caused that? Like, was it a technique thing? Was it being impatient? Did I rush things? Was that just a really good defender who just has really great skill, and, maybe I should have taken a step back, or like, so find out what the cause is, because then we can figure out what the solution is.
Yeah, and even just what you're saying there, and this probably relates back to the first scenario too, is that sometimes, it's really got nothing to do with you. The other team just may be playing really well and being in their flow state. And that's nothing personal to you. That's just a kudos to them, you know?
Yeah. And I think when people come into sport, you have to understand, like, you're gonna lose sometimes. The other team
Absolutely.
is going to score. Like, be prepared for that. This is not a surprise. So when they're getting frustrated that they scored, stop worrying about the fact that they scored, and start thinking about what might have contributed to that. How do we maybe prevent them from scoring more? But the opposition is going to score. Let's not act surprised by it. That's their goal just as much as yours. That's why we love the challenge of sport.
Mm. And the reality is that you're also gonna miss as well. Like, you're fatigued, there's pressure. If you go into a game thinking that you're gonna score 100% of the shots, you're pretty arrogant for one, but,
Yeah.
you're gonna miss, and if you do miss, you're not losing points. That's the other thing. You're still where you were anyway, so you need to detach that sort of emotion that you've like, "Oh, I've just lost the game or I've let down the team." You haven't really when it comes to it.
No. Well, I also say too, if you think it all rides on you, then you don't trust your teammates. Like,
Mm.
they're not contributing anything. But also, you go into sport, you don't lose anything. Nothing's taken away from you, but you might gain something, and that might be points in your season, or it might be a premiership or whatever. You can't lose, but you can gain.
Mm.
So
Yes.
I think that's important. Nothing's going to be taken away. It's like, even now, when they start talking about the next footy season, the next rugby season, and they're like, oh, these teams, the Brisbane teams are defending their title. No, they're not. You If you're defending something, it means it can be taken away from you. They're not defending it. They're going to try and do it again 2 times in a row, 3 times in a row. Like, that's what they're doing. But that's in the bank. They've already got those premierships. No one's taken them, so they're not defending those, because they can't be taken away. So
Mm.
the language around it has got to be better.
Yes, yes, and I assume that that language also can come from, your coaches and your leaders, and what they say has a huge influence on how the players think.
Yeah, and I think this is a big area from a psych perspective, is people see it so much about the athlete needing a psych. To be honest, I think the coaches also all need a psych, and they all need to be doing training in, how do I speak better to my athletes? And, I said to a coach the other day, do you understand how much influence you have on that athlete? And that what you said to them in that break, you created the stress, you created the
Mm,
pressure. And they're like, well, no, that's on them. I said, well, it's not, because you're leading them, and they come to you for guidance. And that player, every time they make an error, the first thing they do is look for you, which
mhm,
means they're looking for your opinion. So you being unable to control your emotion is having the biggest impact on your athlete. So don't blame the athlete.
mm.
You want them to
Let
control, you need to do that too.
Yes. Let's mix up scenario 3 to incorporate this. So, let's say the team has lost, a lot of the players have not had their best performance, they come off the field. What should the coach say or do in that moment?
I think initially you need to give them time to decompress. Don't go straight into solutions or trying to pull it apart and go, what happened? Let the emotion sit. I think too quickly we try and fix something. You can't fix that, especially if it's a grand final or something. Like, let them take it away, have a think about it, find another time. But I think what they do need to hear is, you've still got belief in them. You can see their effort was there. We might not have hit the mark today, but I know we were trying. We'll go back, and the right time, we'll assess this and we'll have a look at it. But I think right now, be with your family, be with your friends. And this is, something that we certainly did at Collingwood at the time, and we've done with lots of other teams I've worked with. When we played that 23 grand final, was was really important to remind the players, regardless of the result at the end of today, we come back into these rooms and all of our families and all of our friends are still here.
Mm.
So the biggest things in your life have not been taken away or like changed because of whatever result we achieve. We might have a happy moment, we might have a sad moment, but at the end of the day, emotions are temporary, they pass. But these people, they're the ones that ride it with us. So they're going to care for us. They're going to celebrate with us or they're going to care for us if we didn't get what we wanted. The biggest things in life haven't changed. Mum and dad aren't going to kick you out of home. You know, your partner's not going to leave you. You're not going to lose your house. We're not going to feed you because you didn't win. Like all of these really big things. Like, come on, it's a game. And as much as we love it, and I do it at the highest level, the reality is the most important things in your life are still intact, whether you win or lose.
Yes, and it is sport, it's not war at the end of the day, isn't it?
Correct. That's exactly right.
Yes. Yes. And I like what you said there too about, and it sort of relates to what you're saying earlier, that if we as coaches focus more on talking about the process that was implemented, because I know as a player, the one thing that I can always control is sort of my effort and my attitude. If
Correct.
we're rewarding those things instead of saying, oh, you didn't kick 6 goals or we lost, they're outcomes. You can't always control outcomes, but you can control
Never control an
processes.
outcome. Like,
Mm.
even you can't control it, you can influence it. Like, even if you and I are playing tennis against each other, we have a 50-50 chance of exerting that influence. If you're in a team, if you're in an AFL team, there's 22, 23 players picked each week, so you're 1/23rd of the effort. So it gets more and more diluted the bigger your team is as well. So your ability to influence changes. And your team tries to influence more than the other. You as an individual performer try and influence. You can only control, when we say to people, stay in your lane, that's what we mean. Literally, keep your head in your ass in the same place, stay in your lane, control what you can, and let's hope that your level of effort has exerted greater control and influence on the result.
Mhm, and that's team sports, right? That's why we love them. You could be playing
Yeah.
your absolute best and you can still lose, and vice versa as well.
Yeah. And that's why I say, to me, it's all about success and failure is effort based. If you can come off and go, that's the best I could have done, you've had a successful performance and you may have won or you may have lost. Vice
Mhm.
versa, if I'm in a really weak competition and I didn't have to try that hard, so I mucked around a little bit, so we won, but I'd say that's a failure because I didn't put in my best effort.
Mm.
So it goes both ways.
If we look inside winning teams and winning cultures, you've obviously worked with some of the best in Australia.
Yep.
What does a winning team look like from within?
From within, I think a winning team looks like they communicate and they connect and they care.
Mhm.
Like, and they're not sports skills, like they're life skills. Like, when you communicate and you can have conversations, and the communication might be praising somebody or it might be holding them accountable for something. When you feel like you care about the person standing next to you, and I know who you are, right? I think we get so bogged down with here's the skills. Yeah, but a lot of teams talk about culture and connection and they don't realize it's your people. And it's consistently, when teams outcoach themselves where they go, "Oh, we've been doing really well, so let's change it up to stay ahead." No, no. Let's just get better quality with these things. I look at Melbourne Storm and I think apart from having good coaching, the coach stays in his lane. He coaches and he gets his coaching staff. And the medical stay in their lane. We don't jump in and try and coach. And the admin people do their job really well. But we're all codependent. We all have to communicate with each other to make sure that it flows. But Storm has had such great people for such a long time. Like, they don't change it because why would I? We've got really
Yeah.
great people that are doing their jobs. Whereas I look at a lot of other organizations and they constantly are changing staff and for good reasons and not so good reasons. And you're like, what are you doing? Like,
Uh-huh.
you actually are looking for this silver bullet. You've had some success and you've just got rid of some really great people, or thought you needed to change up something when you don't. Like, don't outcoach yourself.
Yeah. We're so quick to give people the axe instead of using the resources that you'd look elsewhere to try and upskilling those people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what people underestimate with that is you have now you can get another person in that job. but what you cannot get is the relationships that were previously built. Now you're
Mhm.
starting from scratch. Like, that is ridiculous. Have your
Mm.
relationships, make sure they're good, and if they are good, don't change it. Like you said, change the skill and upskill whatever, but don't get rid of your really good people, and that to me is long-term success in teams, sustained success like Storm have. I think that is their silver bullet, it's their people.
And to stay in your lane, it requires a lot of trust, but also putting your ego aside, which in all the best teams, like there are no egos. And you hear about that with the All Blacks and a lot of other successful teams, but that's what they keep saying, no egos.
Yeah, and I think you can often get that when it's a fresh start, like it might be a new coach or whatever it is. But then I think if you've had success or people start to feel their jobs are on the line, then egos come in. Now we're having some fractures, and that's where
Yeah.
psychological safety comes into an environment.
Uh-huh.
Like, we value you, we value your skills, we might have to restructure a little bit or work things out, but people feel psychologically safe. They feel like they can have a bad day and it's okay. They can be amazing and we're all going to support you. You can be going through, a not so great patch and we're going to hang in there with you and we're going to acknowledge you for what you bring to us and what we get from you because we value it.
Mm. If we look at the lens now more on female athletes, obviously psychological safety is so important with male and female, but do you think it's almost more important for female athletes?
Yeah, I think it's important for everybody, but I think that probably the difference you get with girls is, the social side is very, very important because of the confidence. We naturally pick on ourselves more. I think I read a study a number of years ago, and, there was this little experiment that was done in a shopping center, and they set up a mirror, and whoever was in the shopping center, they got, like, 1,000 men and 1,000 women, whatever, and they stood them in front of this mirror for 30 seconds, and then they had to move to the side and tell the researcher what they saw. And the men, majority of the men were like, "Oh, I look good in that jacket. I've been working out at the gym, like, this and that." Majority of women picked on something about themselves.
Mm.
And I think that as a very, very basic experiment, it shows we have very inaccurate assessment of our worth.
Mhm.
Um, I don't think we understand how much damage we do to ourselves. And so I think that psychological safety is more about the human being in that environment, whereas psychological safety, I think for boys often at higher levels can be very skill based and okay to make mistakes. So I think what psychological safety means in different environments changes. Doesn't exclude any parts of it, but I think the weight within it changes. And I think, like I said, for girls, it's a very confidence. You know, I think females are often the worst at supporting females.
Mhm.
We say that we don't get opportunities and yes, you know, there is boy clubs, the male sports are known for being boys clubs and get jobs in for your mates and that, and that's a reality. Um, but I think for females, we don't always support each other for whatever
Yes.
reason. Like, I just don't understand it because we can also be the greatest support for each other as well. Think that starts at lower levels and the coaches have to encourage that and call it out when it's not happening and understand the impacts, and that's where I think coach education is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. Like there's, examples where probably a lot of the women who have had to fight tooth and nail within the sporting system, they've really been through the trenches and they've gotten to a stage now where they've made it. And they're probably thinking, if I had to go through all of that, well, then you should as well, which is the wrong attitude because you went through all of that so that the next generation don't have to go through that. So I think there can be gatekeeping at that stage.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, like, I've been in this for a long time, and I'm still having experiences where I know it's because I'm female that I'm not getting opportunities. I know it's because I'm not, in the boys' clique or whatever it is, and that's frustrating, but it's the reality of it, and I don't know whether it's ever gonna change or whether that's a lack of insight from some of the people that get positions, I don't know, um, but I think we try and make it better for every generation that comes after us. Like, when I first started, I literally had someone sit in front of me, and this person's in the media now, who said, as a male, he goes, "You'll never work in footy because you're a girl."
Mm.
And I'm like, "Well, screw you."
Sucked in. I
You
did.
want to, but it might not be for a little while, but I'm going to do that because that's what I want to do. So there's gonna be those people. Let's not be that for each other. Let's go. If you wanna do it, understand the difficulties that are gonna come with it, the challenges that are gonna come with it, but see it as a challenge, not as a threat.
Mhm.
Because a
And
challenge you
I
wanna step into, but a threat you wanna step away from.
Yes, that's right. And your silver bullet within, like, Collingwood and Storm is that you were a female and, this is just what it looks like from the outside at least, but they absolutely loved and respected you, and I'm sure being a female, you were probably more approachable in some ways than male psychologists could be, so it's also about using your strengths as being a female.
Exactly right, and I think there is a lot of power in that, and I think with anything, like with talent, with skill comes responsibility. I think we have a responsibility to set it up where we can stand up for ourselves, where, we can have that self-respect. I respect everyone within my environments, and I would hope that I get that same respect back, and if I don't, then that's not the right environment for me, and I'm prepared to, back myself in enough to go, "I'm not gonna be treated this way."
Mm.
Um, but I also think too, it's about going, I have to still have the skills. I don't wanna get a job just because I'm a girl and we have to meet our female quota. I've earned my jobs, and yes, there's been advantages to being a female, but I didn't get those jobs because I was a female. I think I got those jobs because I had the skills, and then when I
Mm.
was in there, the advantages of that came to light, but it's still you still gotta develop the skills.
Mhm. Final question on this sort of stuff is, what does true leadership look like in a high performing team to you?
I think true leadership is connecting with all of the people that are under your care. I think, it's about bringing out the best in the people in your group, not you having to be the best person in the group. Making everyone feel valued, and I think it's knowing the skill set and going, "Well, you're better at this than me. I'm gonna provide the opportunities, and I'm gonna create an environment where you can thrive."
Mm.
And then we're gonna do that together. So I think to me that's what the leadership is, is making sure that everyone in your environment respects each other, but that leader consistently shows you that respect.
Mhm. Yes. And I lied, I'm gonna ask one more as well, I just thought of it, but we see these elite athletes and they've just got this confidence about them, and it's not arrogance, it's just pure confidence, and they know that they're capable in what, the skills and abilities they've got. What do you think is the difference between pure confidence and arrogance?
I think confidence is knowing you've done the work. I think it's knowing you've got the skills. It's being prepared to back yourself in. And I always say to my athletes, like, it's okay to be really good, right? Like, give them permission to be amazing.
Mm.
Go be amazing. Like, someone's got to do it. Why not you? I think arrogance is when you're trying to bluff your way through and you haven't consistently done it, but you've had one or two and you're using it to maybe put someone else down or try and give you some psychological advantage because maybe you're cutting corners. But I don't think you have done the work if you have to be that arrogant, or it's not reading the room and going, you know what? People aren't going to want to back you because you think you're better. Being a high performer doesn't mean you're better than others as a human being. It
Mhm.
means that you have got some results that they may not have got, but a high performer is always trying to get better and better. So they're not wasting their time trying to make other people feel shit to make themselves feel better. And that's where I think confidence and arrogance. Confidence is just that internal. I've done the work. I've earned this. I'm going to enjoy this, but I don't think I'm better than anyone else. I just
Mm.
think that I've performed consistently well.
Yes, and you see that with, the best that there's ever been. They're just so humble, and everyone who knows them just says they're just an average person because guess what? They are. Everyone is just average, even if they're doing great things on media. Yeah, they're just another person at the end of the
Yep.
day.
And I think they admit their faults. They don't try and be perfect, but they keep striving like for
Mm.
a higher level, but they don't think that they're perfect or that they're better than somebody else because they've had that higher achievement.
Mhm.
And that's what's so endearing about them too.
Yes. Yes, exactly right. Okay, finishing up with the 4TG signature segment.
Mhm.
Knowing what you know now, what would you go back and tell your 16-year-old self?
I think I would warn myself about, how brutal the industry can be, and that be prepared to ride the waves, which I think I've done pretty well, but I would definitely tell myself, to do that. I think, understand that it's gonna constantly change, and when something ends, another opportunity opens up. It you are where you're supposed to be right now.
Mm,
And I think if you can accept that and go, you're not gonna be able to control everything, not everyone's gonna see your value, and most people are never gonna see how much work you do. But you're not doing it for them. You're doing it because you know that that's how you're gonna be the best at what you can do. And you just have to trust that it'll get you where you wanna go. Like, you just gotta have faith in that.
mhm. I love it. Prove yourself right, don't prove others wrong.
Yeah, pretty much. So,
Love it.
yeah.
Why do we need to keep more girls and women in sport? Which we sort of touched on earlier, but a bit of a wrap up.
I think there's a lot of reasons why we wanna keep them in. I think it's really great for your health. But I think socially, it's just so important to have a network, and I think it's important to have somewhere where you can achieve and push yourself and ride the waves, but the overall health benefits and social benefits and the connectedness, I just think that's vital for
Mm,
people. And that's we look at all the junior studies, why and young girls, what do you want out of sport? And girls up until like 11, 12, they're still saying the social and the friendships. Boys earlier will start going, I want to win, and it's all about the achievements. But I think we have to look at that and just go, what that's why it's so important is to go, you know what? Everyone needs somewhere to achieve, but everyone needs somewhere to feel like they belong. And
mhm,
I think sport does that for us. So that's why
mm,
I'd say do it.
yes. Finally, at a large scale, more systemic level, to grow and promote women's sport, what is the main lever that needs pulling?
I think an understanding needs to happen that we're not trying to make women's sport men's sport. Like, they're not comparable. They're very different. Um, and I think that putting the time and the resource, but resource them properly. Like, if you're gonna do it and you want a competition of any level on anything to succeed, give us a chance to succeed. I think the language that is sometimes put around it, and we look back historically at AFLW and the comments at the start, oh, they're going just as hard as men. Like, competitiveness is competitiveness. That's not gender based. That's that's what sport and high level is. Don't use that language with us. Like, be really responsible with if you're in a position of power, understand that we are just as competitive. We want to achieve just as much, but give us the resources to do it. And I think, if I look at our bigger sports like your rugbies and your AFLWs and that, I think the thing that frustrates me still is that we're not seeing women as high performance managers. We're still seeing men in those positions in women's teams. Our doctors are not specialists in women's health. Like,
True.
why not? Our
Yep.
bodies are different, our cycles are different, our emotions are different. Like, resource us with the right professionals.
Mm,
So I think that's what still has to happen, and it's not happening. And I'm not saying that the right professional might not be a male, but it's got to be someone who specializes in women's health.
yes.
Understand all the things that we go through. And I don't think so. I think the lever is the right resources, and treat us like human competitors, not, put the right language around us to at least give us a chance. We're not trying to be the men's sport. We're trying to be our best, not your best.
Exactly. And as I've said before, is don't compare us to how the men are going now. Compare us to how we've improved over 10 years in the example of AFLW. We don't want to be the men and we're never going to be the men. It's a completely different brand of sport.
Yeah. Well, it's like if you have a look at men's netball.
Yep.
Yeah, we've got a national team and they're really good, but it's a very different looking team to the women's game. The women's game has been so developed that if you asked most people, what's the Australian men's netball team called? They'd have no idea.
Mm.
right? So they're not trying to be the women and they're going through their issues in a sport that's been mostly female dominated. So give them their juice just like we want ours. Let us be us. Don't try and make us something that we're not, and see the things that we bring to the table that might be different and kind of like, that's cool. Rather than going, oh, it's not the same. Who wants it the same? That's boring.
Exactly, that's right.
So
Well, Jacqui, this has been an absolutely fantastic chat. I've gotten a lot of value out of it. And I think the key takeaway for me, at least, is that we can do a lot more upstairs than what we're currently doing.
yeah,
And it not only takes awareness around that and proper education, but it's also coaches taking that on board and
yeah,
trying
for
to
sure.
make everything a far more approachable and, accessible thing to have this sort of sports psychology from grassroots all the way through to elite
Yeah.
performance. But yeah, I really appreciate you jumping on. And, for every listener out there, if you have received any value from this, which I'm sure you have, be sure to tag us at 4TG, follow Jacqui on socials, and let's keep building a movement for girls in sport. We'll see you all next week. And Jacqui, thank you very much again.
Thank you so much.
You've been listening to 4TG, where the future of women's sport is being shaped, one story at a time. If today's episode hit home, subscribe, rate 5 stars, and send it to someone who needs that push. Stay in the loop at 4TG_podcast or on 4TG.com. We'll see you next time. Same mission, same movement. This one was for the girls.